Salute and welcome to another episode of The Inner D. And for this episode, I thought it'd be I guess I would say the perfect opportunity to I guess do like a reading of one of my stories that I've written recently. And so I titled it "Damaged." So for chapter one, which I titled it "The River Never Forgets." Macon in late summer smell like wet asphalt and magnolia, sweetness hiding heat, heat hiding rot. Dany Kenway had promised himself he wouldn't come back. He graduated from the University of Macon with the kind of reputation you don't put on a resume. Unofficial campus investigator. The guy who noticed what didn't fit, who could read a room like a crime scene. He left with a diploma, a fractured memory that refused to stitch itself together, and a quiet exhaustion from being right too often. Now he was back because his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Valerie Val Tonelli messaged him, "Danny, please, I need you here." He read it like 5 times, like the meaning might change if he stared hard enough. Val didn't beg, Val calculated. Val fixed, Val stayed calm when other people panicked. So if she was asking, it meant one of two things. Either she was in trouble, or somebody else was in worse trouble. Danny pulled it into making as dusk turned the sky bruised purple. The city looked the same, historic brick downtown, neon buzzing over bars, the river sliding past like it had secrets to keep. But his brain lit up anyway. Pattern recognition firing like a warning system. A billboard near the interstate read, Garth Development building tomorrow. Smiling man in a suit, perfect teeth, perfect lie. Jimmy Garth. Danny had never met him, but he knew the type. Money like armor, charm like a weapon, consequences like something that happened to other people. Val texted an address. Atrium Health Nutrition, Surgical Tower. Danny parked, walked in, and immediately fell out of place among the sanitized brightness and rolling carts. A nurse at the desk glanced up. "Can I help you?" Danny's eyes scanned. Name badge, scuffed shoes, dry coffee on sleeve, tension in jaw. She'd been crying earlier but had wiped it away. "I'm looking for Valerie Tonelli," Danny said. The nurse's gaze sharpened. "Who are you?" He didn't bother lying. A, mis- a mistake she keeps in her life, he said. That earned the smallest twitch of a smile. Third floor, staff lounge. But her voice dropped. "If you're here because of what happened, I'm sorry." "What happened?" Danny asked. Her eyes flicked to the hallway like the building itself was listening. A resident nurse, Galtea Gal Ferdelli, found her in the supply stairwell. Danny's stomach went cold. "Found who?" The nurse swallowed. "A man. No ID. Not a patient. Security says he wasn't on any camera." "No camera in the hospital?" Danny's brain clicked into place like a lock opening. He found Val in the staff lounge. She looked the same and not the same. Her hair tied back, scrubs wrinkled, face calm in a way that said she already screamed and decided it didn't help. When she saw him, relief hit her like a wave, then guilt for feeling it. "Hey," she said softly. Danny tried to choke. Danny tried to joke and failed. "You got a talent for summoning me like a cursed object." Val stepped forward and hugged him. Brief, tight, practical. Then she leaned back, eyes searching his face like she was checking for damage. "I'm sorry," she said. For what?" "For pulling you back into this." Danny's gaze flicked past her shoulder. Gal stood by the vending machine, arms folded, posture elegant even in exhaustion. Her nurse residency badge dangled from a lanyard like jewelry. She wore confidence the way other people wore clothing, tailored and intentional. But her eyes were darker than her smile. "Danny Kenway," Gal said, "still showing up uninvited, I see." Danny gave her a careful look. "You texted too?" Gal's lips pressed together. Not me, Val. Val cut in. Gal found the body. Then he turned toward Gal. Where? Gal didn't flinch. Supply stairwell near the old wing. I thought it was a homeless man sleeping. Then I saw his hands. What about his hands? Gal's voice dropped. They were clean. Too clean. No dirt, no grime. Like he'd been washed. Val added, he had a symbol carved into his belt. Danny's pulse ticked up. What symbol? Val pulled out her phone, hesitated, then showed him a photo. A belt buckle, metal and expensive, stamped with a minimalist G inside a square. Danny stared. G for Garth, he said. Gal's eyes sharpened. You know who Jamie Garth is? Everyone in the scene knows who he is, Danny said. The question is what he wants in a hospital stairwell. Val's face tightened, because the man wasn't dead when I first saw him. Danny's head snapped toward her. What? Val's voice stayed controlled, but her hands trembled around her coffee cup. I was coming off shift. I heard breathing, wet, slow. Then a security guard found me in there and pulled me out. So he died after you saw him? Danny said, which means someone left him there on purpose. A message. Gal's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then went pale. What? Val asked. Val held the screen toward them. News alert. Macon riverfront. Body found under bridge. Possible connection to hospital incident. Danny felt the city tilt. 2 bodies, he said, in one night? Val's eyes were steady, but her voice wasn't. Danny, the second one? Danny waited. Val swallowed. It was a student from our year. Danny's memory flickered. A face in a hallway. A name half lost. His name tried to assemble details and came up short, like it had been sabotaged. What's the name? He asked. Val answered and it landed like a punch. Ezra Lacosta. Danny didn't remember Ezra clearly, but he remembered the feeling, aromas that had hovered around Ezra like smoke. The sense that Ezra knew something he wasn't allowed to know. Gal's voice was quiet. And Jamie Garth's company is redeveloping the riverfront. Danny exhaled through his nose, the way he did when things lined up too neatly. Then somebody's cleaning up a past that won't stay buried, he said. And somewhere in Macon, a billionaire was pretending he didn't bleed like everyone else. Chapter 2. Badges and Smiles. Morning came heavy and bright, like the city wanted to pretend nothing happened. Danny didn't sleep. He sat in Val's small apartment with the blinds cracked, watching the street, cataloging patterns. The same white SUV passed twice. The same pedestrian looked up at the windows too often. The same feeling returned. He was being observed. Val moved around her kitchen like she was bracing herself for impact. Making coffee, checking her phone, checking the lock, checking Danny's face to see if he was spiraling. Yao sat on the couch, scrolling, jaw tight. What's your plan? Yao asked. Danny looked up. I don't have one yet. Yao arched a brow. That's new. Danny ignored the jab. Well, first I need information. Who handled Ezra's case? Who's in charge of the hospital incident? Who benefits from all this? Val's phone buzzed again. She stared at it like it was a live wire. It's him, she said. Who? Danny asked. Val answered with a bitterness that surprised him. Aiden Woods. The name hit out too. Her eyes flashed recognition. Val put the call on speaker. Aiden Woods' voice filled the room, smooth, authoritative, the kind that liked hearing itself. Valerie Tonelli, Aiden said. Heard you were close to the last night incident. Val kept her voice neutral. I'm a nurse. I did what I had to. That's admirable, Aiden said, like he was narrating a commercial. Listen, I'm handling a sensitive investigation tied to federal interests. We need to keep this quiet. Danny leaned forward. Val asked, Federal interests? Aiden chuckled. I can't say, but I can say do not talk to anyone. Do not share photos. Do not speculate. Other trained professionals do their jobs. Gal mouth. Gal mouth. He's threatening you. Val's voice stayed calm. Aiden, I didn't call you. You didn't have to, Aiden said. My office hears things, sees things, and it would be a shame if your career got complicated. Danny's eyes narrowed. That wasn't subtle. That was a man who'd never been forced to be subtle. Val's jaw tightened. Is this about Jimmy Garth? Aiden's pause was half a second too long. A tell. I don't know what you're talking about, he said too quickly. Then he took the phone from Val, leaned in like he could speak first through a speaker. Aiden Woods, Danny said. You're not a cop. You're not a detective. You're a guy who got a badge and decided that made you a god. Silence. Then Aiden laughed, bright and offended. And you are? Danny said, a problem. Aiden's voice dropped like a mass-lip fraction. Stay out of this, Kenway. The call ended. Val stared at Danny. How did he know your name? Danny's mouth went dry. Because this isn't about last night. Val stood restless. Then what is it about? Danny's mind spun, pulling at old threads. Ezra, the riverfront, Garth development, the hospital stairwell. No cameras, wash hands, simple. And then, like a door cracking open, a memory flashed. A basement room on campus, flickering fluorescent lights, a hum of old servers, a foul name he couldn't see, system underscore 15. And someone saying, if you open this, you won't be able to close it. He rubbed his temple, something I don't remember, something I'm not supposed to. Gal's eyes softened a fraction. Okay, then we make new memories. Val looked between them. We can't find a billionaire and a corrupt government agent. Then he said, we're not finding them head on. We're just finding out what they're hiding. So they started with the riverfront. The area was condoned off by yellow tape, police cars, and news vans. Danny approached like he belonged because he knew confidence was camouflage. Val and Gal followed, both in street clothes, both carrying themselves like people used to in crisis. A man in a suit stepped in front of them. Security. Broad shoulders with an earpiece. No access, he said. Danny's glaze clicked. Cheap watch, pretending to be expensive. Sweat on collar. Hands near waistband. Nervous and not trained. Danny smiled without warmth. We're medical staff. We're here to identify the victim. The guard hesitated. Just enough. Gal stepped forward and delivered the kind of polished authority rich girls learned at birth. If you delay this, I will call the hospital legal office and tell them you interfere with the death investigation. The guard blinked, swallowed, and stepped aside. They walked under the bridge where Ezra had been found. There was still a dark stain on the concrete where the water had washed everything away. Danny crouched, scanning the environment the way he used to scan dorm hallways. He saw it, small and almost invisible, a streak mark on a metal beam, fresh. He fought it with his eyes and found a second mark, then a third. Someone dragged something, he said. Val's voice was low. Ezra? Then he stood, looked up at the underside of the bridge. He saw a spot where the grime was smeared clean, a hidden access panel. Gal's breath caught. That wasn't there yesterday. Then he stepped onto a ledge, fingers probing the panel. It was bolted, but the bolts were new. He looked down at Val. Do you have anything sharp? Val pulled a small multi-tool from her pocket because Val always had what people needed. Then he smiled despite himself. Of course you do. He worked the bolts loose. The panel popped open with a hollow thunk. He said it was a waterproof case, a wedge like someone had hidden it in a hurry. Then he pulled it out, opened it. A drive. A thumb drive with the same memberless G inside a square. Gal's voice went icy. Jamie Garth. But before Danny could respond, a voice behind him called out, loud and pleased with itself. Well, well, Aiden Woods. He stood beyond the tape with two uniformed officers and he grinned like a man who thought he was untouchable. You people really don't know how to mind your own business, Aiden said. Then he slipped the drive into his pocket. Aiden's smile widened. Hand it over, Kenway. Val stepped forward. Aiden, this is evidence. Aiden's eyes flickered to her like she was an object. Sweetheart, in my world, I am the evidence. Moving in closer, voice dropping, poisonous. You're going to give me what you found, or I'm going to make sure both of you lose your licenses, and he nodded at Dany, ends up in a cell. Dany tilted his head. You're loud for a man who's afraid. Aiden's face tightened. I'm not afraid of you. Dany's eyes were calm. You should be. Aiden signaled to the officers. Get it. The officers approached. One grabbed Dany's arm. Dany reacted without thinking, using momentum instead of skill. Twisted, slipped free, but the second officer swung a baton. The baton cracked against Dany's shoulder. Pain flashed white, and Dany stumbled. He was kind of athletic, and definitely not a brawler. He relied on quick thinking, and he had it. He stepped back, pulled the officer forward, and the officer's own momentum carried him into the bridge beam with a dull thud. The man grunted, dazed. The second officer came in hard. Then he ducked, grabbed the man's wrist, and forced it down. Val moved, fast and decisive, hooked the officer's knee with her foot, and shoved his shoulder. He went down, hitting the concrete. Gal grabbed a discarded flashlight from the ground and swung it into the first officer's rib with surprising force. Aiden's grin had vanished. He backed up, reaching for his weapon. Then he saw it and moved. He closed the distance before Aiden could draw fully, slammed Aiden's hand into his own holster. The gun stayed trapped. Aiden panicked, eyes wild. He wasn't a fighter. He was the guy who relied on permission. He swung a clumsy punch. Dany caught it, twisted it, and drove Aiden into the guardrail. Aiden gasped. Then he leaned in. You don't scare me, he said. You scare people who still believe your badge means something. Aiden's eyes burned with humiliation. You're dead, he hissed. Dany released him and stepped back. Gal grabbed Dany's arm. We need to go, now. Sirens were getting closer. They ran. Behind them, Aiden Wood stood in the sunlight, rubbing his bruised wrist and smiling like a man who had just decided to stop playing polite. Chapter 3. Don't blink. They were grouped in the safest place they could think of, the University of Macon's campus library, because Denny knew his blind spots and Val knew half the staff from clinical rotations. Denny sat at a computer, drive plugged in, heart beating too fast. Gal hovered, arms crossed. Val stood close, watching the door. The drawer contained encrypted folders. Danny's mind moved through the puzzle like it was breathing. File names blinked onto the screen. Garth underscore riverfront underscore Rediff. Nevicent underscore SPC underscore cam underscore override. UM underscore system underscore 15 underscore archive. Danny froze. Val leaned in. System underscore 15. Danny swallowed. I've seen that name before. He clicked. A video file loaded. Grainy timestamp years ago. A basement room. Old service. A young man. Ezra, standing in the frame, face tense. Ezra looked straight into the camera like he knew one day someone would watch. This is Ezra Lacosta, Ezra said. If you're seeing this, then they didn't stop me in time. Denny's chest tightened. Ezra continued, voice shaking with controlled fear. Jimmy Garth is financing a program through the University of Macon's Legacy Infrastructure System _15. It's a data siphon. It pulls students' records, medical data, everything. It's being sold. When I tried to report it, Aiden Woods showed up and told me to forget it. Val's hands rose to her mouth. Gal's face was stone. Ezra swallowed hard. Ezra swallowed hard. I'm not the only one who found it. There's someone else. Someone who. Ezra flinched, like he heard something else outside frame. If anything happens to me, it means they're moving to the riverfront phase. The hospital cameras. The video cut. The room went silent. Val's voice was barely a whisper. They were stealing patient data. And student data, Gal added, using the university as a pipeline. Danny's head throbbed. His memory fractured again of images of servers, corridors, and of someone watching him back then. They tried to erase System _15, Danny said slowly. But they couldn't. They just get buried. Val looked at him. What do we do? Danny stared at the folder labeled Nevison _SBC _cam _override. We prove it, he said, and we survived long enough to show it. That's when the library lights flickered. Gal looked up. Did you? Before she finished, the security doors at the entrance slammed shut. A voice echoed through the library speakers. Smooth, controlled, female. Daniel Kenway. Denny's blood went cold. Gal's eyes narrowed. Who's that? Val's mouth went dry. Vaughn Tennyson. The name had been on the drive. Jimmy Garth's assistant, lawyer, fixer. Vaughn's voice continued, calm like she was reading a report. You have something that belongs to my employer. Denny stood scanning. Where are you? I'm not the threat, Vaughn said. I'm the solution. I'm the person who prevents chaos from spreading. Now give me the drive and I can make this painless. Gal scoffed. Painless? You people killed Ezra. A pause. Then Fawn spoke again. For the first time, there was something cold under the polish. Ezra Acosta made a series of unfortunate choices. Val's eyes flashed. He tried to do the right thing. Right and wrong are irrelevant, Fawn replied. Only the outcomes matter. Denny's mind raced. The doors were locked. Camp security was compromised or overridden. System _15 didn't just steal data. It controls systems. Gal's voice was sharp. We're not giving you anything. Fawn's tone didn't change. Then you're choosing the hard way. The lights went out. Emergency light flicked on. Dim. Red. Denny's eyes adjusted. He heard footsteps, multiple moving with purpose. Val whispered, How many? Denny listened, counting patterns and sound. 4, he said. Maybe 5. Gal grabbed a heavy book from a desk. Val held her multi-tool like it was somehow becoming a weapon. Denny's hands were empty. He hated that. He wasn't a walking batter ram. He was just a guy with instincts and a lucky sense of justice. Stay behind me, he said. And really hated himself for saying it because it sounded brave, and he certainly didn't feel brave. Shadows moved between shelves. A man lunged first. Big, mask, baton in hand. Danny sidestepped and grabbed the man's wrist with both hands and redirected the swing into a shelf. Books exploded off the shelf. Books exploded off the row in a loud cascade. Gal swung the book into a man's temple. He dropped hard, unconscious. Another attacker came from behind. Then he felt it more than saw it. He ducked at the last second, the baton whooshing past his head. He drove his elbow backward into the attacker's ribs. The man grunted but didn't stop. Val stepped in, precise, fearless, jabbed her multi-tool in the attacker's thigh. Not deep, not lethal, enough to make him be open stagger. The third attacker reached for Val. Then he grabbed him in his collar and slammed him into a table, sending chair skeeting. The fourth attacker pulled a knife. Dany froze for a split second, his brain flashing to memory fragments, to fear. Gal didn't. Gal moved like she decided she was done being scared. She threw a chair into the tiger's legs. He stumbled. Dany surged forward, grabbed the knife wrist with both hands, and twisted into his until Tidden screamed. The knife clattered to the floor. The attacker snarled, headbutted Dany. Pain burst across Dany's face. His visions flashed. He staggered. The attacker grabbed the knife again. Val shouted, Dany! Dany's brain found one solution, ended before it ends them. He grabbed the attacker's wrist, drove down, and shoved hard toward the floor where the knife point angled up. The man fought, muscle straining. Dany pushed harder. The blade went in. It wasn't cinematic. It was ugly, fast, and final. The attacker's eyes went wide, shock replacing aggression. He collapsed, blood spreading dark across the carpet. Val stood frozen, breathing hard. Gal's face was pale but steady. Then he stared at his hands like they belonged to someone else. The library speakers crackled again. Fawn's voice returned, unbothered by the violence. You're making this worse. Then he looked up, voice raw. You sent them. I sent an opportunity, Fawn replied. You escalated it. Val's laugh was sharp and humorless. You're insane. Fawn's tone remained even. Sanity is just believing you can win against a system that has already absorbed you. The doors clicked, unlocked. Fawn's voice softened like a knife disguised as silk. You have one more chance. Keep it the drive. Dany wiped blood from his cheek, eyes burning. No, he said. A pause. The Fawn said, almost regretful. Then Jamie will stop being patient. The speakers went dead. Dany, Val, and Gal stood under red emergency lights, surrounded by broken furniture and one body that wouldn't get up again. Val's voice shook. What did we just do? Dany's throat tightened. We survived. Gal looked at Dany, her eyes bright with something that wasn't fear. And we're not done, she said. Chapter 4. Thin Walls. Jimmy Garth didn't live in Macon like a normal person. He lived above it. His estate sat outside the city, a fortress with glass walls and iron gates, manicured lawns and security cameras that never blinked. The kind of place that said, I am not like you. Then he stood across the road, staring at it, heart pounding. Gal and Val were beside him in the shadow of the trees. This is insane, Val whispered. Then he nodded. Yes. Gal's mouth tightened. Then why are we here? Because the drive isn't enough, Dany said. We need the source, the server. The proof that ties him, Aiden, and Fawn together so tight they can't slip out. Gal looked at him. So you want to break into Jimmy Garth's house? Dany gave a small shrug. I was hoping you said it out loud so it sounds worse. Val exhaled. Dany, we're just nurses and a guy with a trauma hobby. Dany's dry humor flickered. Unofficial investigator is on my invisible business card. They moved anyway because once you know someone is killing people to protect a secret, not moving feels like dying slowly. They found a service gate along the side, less guarded, because rich people always assume the threat came from the front. Dany watched the camera rotation and counted seconds, time their run between blind spots. They slipped through, crossed the lawn, and reached the side entrance. Val's multi-tool popped the lock like she'd been waiting for a reason to use it like this. Inside, the house was quiet in the way expensive places were quiet. Sounds swallowed by plush surfaces, danger disguised as comfort. They moved fast. Danny followed instinct in layout logic. Server Danny followed instinct in layout logic. Server room must be near the office. Office will be near the library. Library will be near the center. They found the office, and Jamie Garth was waiting. He stood by a desk like he belonged there, because he did. He wore a suit like armor, hair perfect, expression calm. Beside him stood Fawn Tennyson, composed, unblinking. Across the room, leaning against the wall with a small grin, was Aiden Woods. Badge visible, gun holstered, ego fully armed. Daniel Kenway, Jamie said, voice smooth. The university's little detective. Danny's pulse hammered, but his eyes stayed leveled. You killed Ezra. Jamie sighed like Danny was inconveniencing him. Ezra the Costa was a liability. Liabilities are removed. Bow's voice broke through, sharp. He was a person. Jamie's eyes flickered to her. People are categories. Some are useful, some are disruptive. Yao stepped forward, fury in her posture. You stole Medica data. Jamie smiled faintly. We optimize resource access, modernize systems, monetize inefficiency. Vaughn added as if clarifying a contract term. He improved outcomes. Danny's jaw tightened. And when people found out you cleaned it up with bodies? Aiden laughed. Bodies happen, man. It's a messy world. But hey, good news. You three are about to become a closed case. Val's hand squeezed Danny's arm. Gal shifted her stance. Ready. Danny's mind raced. Three of them. Three of the enemy. But the enemy had a house full of security and probably more men. Jamie stepped closer, voice gentle like a therapist. Give me the drive. Danny didn't move. Jamie's eyes hardened. You're not a hero, Kenway. You're a former student with a nostalgia problem. Danny's voice went quiet. And you're a billionaire who thinks money makes you immortal. Jamie's smile returned. It does, in the ways that matter. Fawn nodded toward Aiden. Handle it. Aiden's grin widened. He drew his gun, and in that moment, everything happened at once. Gal threw a heavy bronze paperweight from the desk straight into Aiden's hand. The gun fired, the shot turned into the ceiling. Aiden screamed as the paperweight smashed his knuckles. Val launched and shoved Aiden backward into the wall, driving her shoulder hard. Aiden hit, dazed, furious. Danny moved for Jimmy, but Fawn stepped in front of him with a small pistol, steady hands. You're very brave, Fawn said. Danny's eyes locked on the barrel. You're very obedient. Fawn's face didn't change. It's called being effective. She fired. Danny jerked sideways, too late to avoid completely, but enough that the bullet grazed his upper arm instead of punching through his chest. Pain hit like fire. He stumbled, grabbed the desk for balance. Jimmy's voice was calm. Don't make me regret being civilized. Gal screamed, Danny! Val turned, saw the blood, and something inside her snapped from control to lethal. She grabbed Aiden's injured hand and twisted. Aiden howled, dropping his weapon completely now. He swung at Val with his other hand. She ducked and drove her elbow into his throat. Aiden gagged, stumbling. Gal grabbed Aiden's falling gun before he recovered. Aiden's eyes widened. Whoa, whoa. Gal pointed at him with shaking hands, but steady intent. You threatened her. You threatened him. And you helped kill Ezra. Aiden's bravado cracked. You're not going to shoot. You're just a nurse. Gal's eyes were cold. So were the people whose lives you sold. Aiden lunged anyway because ego made him stupid. Gal fired once. The shot hit center mass. Aiden jerked, staggered, confusion crossing his face like he couldn't believe consequences were real. He tried to speak but couldn't. He collapsed onto Jamie's pristine floor, blood pooling, dark and fast. Val stood, frozen, breathing hard. Gal's hands shriveled, but she didn't drop the gun. Jamie looked down at Aiden's body, and for the first time his calm slipped. Just a fraction. Aiden was replaceable, Jamie said quietly, as if comforting himself. Fawn's eyes narrowed at Gal. You just escalated beyond your comprehension. Gal's voice was ragged. He did that. Fawn turned the pistol back toward Dany. Drive, now. Dany clenched his beating arm. His vision pulsed at the edges. Pain threatened to make him stupid. But his brain still worked. He glanced at Jamie's desk. A framed document. Guard development, river phase 2, the QR code and signature. A security system interface. A laptop open displaying a live feed, camera angles, and in the corner of the screen, a server room door indicator. Unlocked. Danny moved, not toward Fawn, toward the laptop. Fawn fired again, but Val threw herself into Fawn's line, knocking her arm up. The shot went wide. Danny slammed the laptop, hit the controls, and locked every interior door he could. Sirens began blowing inside the house. Gal shouted, What did you do? Danny breathed through the pain. I turned his fortress into a cage. Jamie's eyes narrowed. That won't save you. No, Danny said, voice hard, but it buys us time. They ran down a hallway following the server room indicator. Behind them, Jamie and Fawn moved too, because now they couldn't just wait. Now it was personal. They reached the server room. The door was heavy, secure but unlocked. They burst inside. Rows of equipment hummed like a living thing. Status lights blinked in patterns Danny understood like language. And there it was on a central monitor. System underscore 15, activate pipeline, Navicent, Garth data hub. Val stared, horrified. Oh my god. Val's voice was shaking with anger. He's been doing this the whole time. Danny grabbed a cable, yanked it free, and plugged the drive into the main terminal. Can you send it? Val asked. Danny's fingers flew. I can try. Danny's voice came from the doorway, calm again and dangerous again. You really shouldn't touch things you don't understand. Jamie stepped in. Fawn beside him, pistols raised. Danny didn't look up. I understand enough. Jamie smiled. No, you understand patterns. You don't understand power. Danny's hands kept moving. Power is just the pattern you repeat until people forget it can be broken. Fawn stepped forward. Last warning. Gal raised Aiden's gun. Hand steadier now. Back up. Jimmy's eyes flickered to the weapon. You've already killed one man tonight. Gal's voice cracked. He killed himself when he decided other people didn't matter. Jamie's smile faded. Then you leave me no choice. He nodded. Fawn fired. Gal fired too. 2 shots almost simultaneously. Fawn's bullet hit Gal in the shoulder, spinning her, a sharp cry leaving her throat. Gal's shot hit Fawn in the chest. Fawn staggered, eyes wide, not with pain but surprise. Like she couldn't believe professionalism didn't protect her. She tried to take another step. Then she fell. Jamie's face hardened into something ugly. Fine, he said quietly, almost annoyed. You were supposed to be indispensable. Dany slammed a final command key. Upload complete. Dany yanked the drive free. It's out. Val pressed his hand on Gal's shoulder, applying pressure, voice tight. Stay with me. Gal gritted her teeth. Fine. I'm. Dany looked at Jamie. Jamie looked at them, eyes cold and calculating, like he was already rewriting the story in his head. You think you've won, Jamie said. But systems don't fall because of one leak. Dany's voice was low. No. They fall because people stop being afraid. Jamie stepped backward toward the door. Sounds outside growing louder. Real sounds now approaching. Jamie's gaze lingered on Dany, then Val, then Gal. He smiled again. Then, this isn't over, he said. Dany's eyes narrowed. It is for you. Jamie turned and ran. Chapter 5, The Riverfront. The upload hit like an explosion. News stations lit up, internal investigators swarmed, hospital leadership panicked, the university scrambled. Social media did what it always did, turned horror into headline, outrage into content. But this time, evidence was too clean, too complete, too impossible to ignore. Jamie Garth didn't get arrested immediately. Men like Jamie didn't. Men like Jamie had lawyers and delays and favors. So Jamie did what men like Jamie always did when control slipped. He tried to disappear. Dany, Val, and Gal who was stitched and bandaged at the hospital, refusing to stay down, tracked him to the riverfront development site. Because system underscoring file wasn't just data, it was infrastructure. And the riverfront was where Jamie was building his next stage. Night fell as they approached the construction zone. Tall skeleton frame buildings, cranes looming like metal dinosaurs, the river sliding like a witness. Jenny's arm throbbed. Gal's shoulder burned. Val looked tired in a way that went beyond physical, but her eyes were clear. They found Jamie near the temporary command trailer, surrounded by two private security men with rifles. Jamie saw them and smiled as if he expected them. You're persistent, he said. Dany's voice was rough. You killed people. Jamie shrugged. I protected an investment. Val stepped forward, anger steady. Ezra wasn't an investment. Jamie's gaze flicked to her with mild irritation. Ezra was an obstacle. Val's voice was sharp. And what are we? Jamie's smile widened. Annoying. He nodded to his men. The security guards raised their rifles. Dany's brain screamed danger. He grabbed Val's wrist and yanked her down behind his stack of pallets as gunfire erupted. Sharp cracks, wood splintering, concrete chipping. Gal dove behind a metal beam, breathing hard. Dany couldn't just walk into bullets, so he did what he did best. He looked for the pattern. The guards moved like trained men, but not military. The coverage overlapped poorly. They relied on intimidation. Jamie stood behind them, hands clean. Dany whispered to Val, "We need a distraction." Val's eyes flicked up to the. Excuse me. Val's eyes flicked up to the train controls. That. Dany followed her gaze. A crane cab. An operator inside startled, unsure. Gal shouted from the behind cover. Hey! One guard turned toward her voice reflex. Dany moved. He ran low, fast, using the chaos. He grabbed a loose metal pipe from the ground. Heavy, crude, perfect. The guard swung his rifle toward Dany. Dany slammed the pipe into the rifle barrel, knocking it aside, far through into the guard's throat. The man dropped, choking, weapon clattering. The second guard fired. Bullets snapping past Danny's ear. Val sprinted toward the crane controls, shouting at the operator. Drop it, now! The operator hesitated. Val pointed at the chaos, at the bodies, at blood. Do it! The operator pulled the lever. The crane swung. A massive pallet of steel beam, suspended like a guillotine, shifted overhead. The second guard looked up too late. The load dropped, smashing down with a deafening crash, pinning the guard in a brutal final way. The sound was sickening, metal on bone, weight ending argument. Silence followed, broken only by the river and the distant sirens drawing closer. Jimmy stared at his dead men. For the first time, his mask cracked fully. You idiots, he hissed. Not at the guards, but at the universe. You've ruined everything. He turned and ran toward the river. Then he chased, lungs burning. Jamie reached the edge of the construction site where the riverfront path dropped into a half-built stairwell leading down toward the water. He turned, breathing hard, suit ruined by sweat and dust, eyes bright with fury. You think you're a hero? Jimmy spat. You're nothing. You're a poor kid with a talent for noticing things. Danny stepped closer, pipe still in his hand, blood in his veins, pain everywhere. Maybe, Danny said. But I noticed you're scared. Jamie sneered. I'm not scared. I'm angry. Anger is just fear with permission, Danny said. Jamie lunged because men like Jamie always believed their aggression would be reality. Jimmy swung the pipe hard into Jamie's knee. Jamie screamed and collapsed, clutching his leg, face contorted. Jamie stood over him, breathing heavy. Gal and Val right behind Danny, both limping, both furious. Jamie looked up at them, eyes wild. You can't do this. Do you know who I am? Val's voice was quiet, deadly calm. We know exactly who you are. Gal stepped forward, her expression hollowed by pain and purpose. She treated life like paperwork. Jamie tried to crawl backward toward the river. The city needs me. Danny shook his head. No, the city survived you. Sirens bring closer now. Police, state investigators, maybe federal. This time, not Aiden's personal theater. Jamie's eyes darted. He looked for an exit that wasn't there. When he realized he was cornered, something in him snapped. He reached into his jacket and pulled a small handgun, sleek and expensive. Danny moved instinctively, grabbing Jamie's wrist. The gun went off. The shot tore into the ground, sparks jumping from concrete. Jimmy fought, desperate strength fueled by entitlement. Danny strained, pain ripping through his injured arm. Val stepped in and slammed her multi-tool into Jamie's forearm. Jamie screamed, grip weakening. Gal kicked the gun away. Jamie looked up at them. 3 people he had dismissed as irrelevant, now sitting over him like consequences given for him. He spat. You think you won because you caught me? My lawyers. A voice behind them cut in, loud and official. Jamie Garth, don't move. Floodlights hit the riverfront. Uniformed officers and investigators swarmed, weapons drawn, faces hard. Junior froze, realizing he couldn't buy his way out fast enough. One officer stepped forward, cuffs ready. Jimmy's voice froze, frantic. You can't arrest me. Do you know who? The officer cut him off. Yeah, the guy who's going to prison. They cuffed him. Jimmy's face twisted as he was pulled up. His leg paused. Jamie's face twisted as he was pulled up. His polished image shattered. His suit dirty, his leg damaged, his myth collapsing under fluorescent law enforcement lights. Danny watched him go. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt empty. Because truth didn't heal everything. He just stopped the bleeding long enough for you to notice how deep the wound was. Gal leaned against Val, eyes glassy. Is it over? Danny listened to the river, to the sirens, to the city breathing. "What's your night?" he said. Epilogue. Sirens. Making didn't celebrate neatly. It processed. News stories run for weeks. Billionaire developer indicted. Corrupt agent dead. Data theft scandal rocks making. Hospital systems compromised. Names became hashtags. Opinions became noise. But behind the headlines, real people dealt with the aftermath. Val went back to work first because that's who she was. She filed reports, sat in meetings, took care of patients while her own hands still trembled sometimes when she remembered blood on carpet. Gal healed slower. Gal healed slower. Her shoulder left a scar that made her angry when she looked at it until one day she stopped seeing it as damage and started seeing it as proof she didn't run. Danny stayed in making it longer than he planned. One evening, the three of them stood by the riverfront. Now quiet, construction passed, evidence markers gone. The river moved the way it always did, steady, indifferent, honest. Val looked at Danny. "So, are you leaving again?" Danny's eyes stayed on the water. "I don't know." Gal smirked weakly. "That's your favorite answer." Then he let out a small, dry laugh. "It's accurate." Val stepped closer. "You did something good here." Danny shook his head. "We did." Gal's voice softened. "Yeah, we did." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Danny said quietly, "Ezra deserved better." Val's eyes glistened. He did. Gal stared at the water. "At least it didn't erase him." Danny looked at the river, mind still full of patterns. The heart heavier than before. "Systems don't fall forever," he said. "They rebuild. They adapt." Val's voice was steady. "Then we adapt too." Gal's Gal glanced at Danny, playful but serious. "And next time you learn how to throw a real punch." Danny's mouth tight. Danny's mouth twitched. "Hey, I threw plenty." Gal scuffed. "You've survived plenty. There's a difference." Val smiled. Small, warm, and anchoring. He doesn't have to be a fighter. He just has to keep showing up. Danny looked at them. Two people who had once been defined by romantic rivalry, now defined by loyalty. His chaotic love still existed between them. Sure. Gal's dramatic spark, Val's quiet gravity, both tugging him in different directions. But for the first time, it didn't feel like a distraction. It felt something real. Danny exhaled, slow. Vegas lights reflected on the river like broken gold. And somewhere deep in the city's bones, the truth had finally stuck. Not because the bad guys gave up, but because this time someone pushed back hard enough that they couldn't pretend that they were untouchable. The end.